Okay, I'm back. I had a little bit of lunch, like some pasta chicken thing. It was pretty good. Maddie had some lunch, and gotta water these plants. This one here is kind of drying out a little bit. What's up? Welcome back. Welcome back. Make sure I have the right chat open. I think I got the old chat open. I want to make sure I can see you guys. Very closely monitor you guys. Mustard Mama, where you been at today? Today was a crazy day. Where you been at? Is that Mustard? That's Mustard. Proctor! Oh, shoot. I would have never said what I had for lunch. Actually, the lunch wasn't bad, though. It was this healthy pasta. I forgot what it was, but it's like a healthy pasta and some chicken. Oh, my God. Mel, hilarious to see your Twitter post now with like 15 replies in 5 minutes. Oh, dude. My Twitter? Oh, my gosh. It's crazy. It really is. Can you play Drunk Lordy Vid? What's that? Drunk Lordy Vid? Drunk Lordy Vid. Oh, Twitter's crazy. It's insane. You know, the funny thing is, like, I never even used to like Twitter. Twitter wasn't my thing. And so I used to post whatever on there, like just like a lot of my thoughts or whatever. Like I didn't really give a shit about it. But now it's like I'm getting such a reaction sometimes. Some YouTuber posted my clip. They were upset about the shit that I said. And I mean, there's been quite a few things that's kind of like really upset people, I guess. These people were calling me racist last night. Some lady said, what she said? She said that I earned $59 in the last 7 days and that I earned $500 a month. Yeah, if I would have to get a job, I'd actually have to get a job if that's all I was earning was $500. Just crazy stuff. These people get really like riled up. Twitter has been nuts. Nuts. And then people saying that what's the thing they said? I'm grifting. Listen, if I wanted to grift, I would just agree with everybody. And I'm not somebody that's a disagreeable person. I don't disagree just to disagree. I had an ex that would just disagree just to disagree, and she admitted it to me. Even if she doesn't believe it, just wants to disagree. I'm not one of those people. I just actually feel how I feel about this case. You know? And it drives these people nuts. Twitter. I'm trying to think of what's the craziest place. If it's Twitter or Facebook. Maybe Twitter. It might be Twitter. And somebody said too, they're going to call social workers. I was like, what? I'm calling a social worker for you. Oh, God, bro. Lord almighty. Yo, there's this one Twitter page that's posting these people reaching out to families and stuff. More messages sent to Miss Proctor's wife. So they messaging Proctor's wife, saying all kinds of shit. She said, "It's sad you're sticking up for a dirtbag husband. I know who left those flowers for you, and it will symbolize the death of Michael's career. Good riddance. I hope this little fuck trophies get raised by someone with some morals, you cunt." And let me tell you, a lot of these people are hypocrites because these people use this verbiage in their everyday life.
Right, Mr. Jackson, whenever you're
all day long.
Thank you, Your Honor. Triple Proctor, before we broke, we were discussing Sallyport video that you watched several weeks ago. I want to make sure I'm clear about this. You indicated that the video that you watched was proper in terms of orientation.
Please play the drunk vid read and nightline. Hugs man. Play it every break. Best EVAAAA.
Play drunk vid, read, and Nightline. Hugs, man. Play it every break. Best ever. Can you, Cynthia, if you have can you email it to me, please? Ikemail@gmail.com.
Correct.
I want to make sure I get the right
that's
thing.
the way
Thank
it
you for the
And you
super chat. Thank
recall
you for
that
the 20.
being a yellow chyron underneath.
To the best of,
In other words, the font color.
to the best of my memory, yes.
Which of the Canton Police Department videos were you responsible for retrieving, if any?
I did not retrieve any of them.
So what I'm trying to ask is, and maybe I'm doing it inartfully, how did those Sallyport videos end up in the possession of the Commonwealth? What was the line of succession?
Detective Lieutenant Tully retrieved the Sallyport videos, I believe.
And do you know from whom he retrieved those Sallyport videos?
I believe it was the chief of police.
Okay, Chief Rafferty specifically gave him whatever videos were provided.
Correct, that's my understanding.
And then he provided those to you for your review.
Yes.
Oh, Heather, sorry if things didn't work out for you.
I want to stay on the subject of videos for a second, but shift gears to the Ring video footage. You've already testified that there were several hundred Ring videos from One Meadows, from both the facing the driveway and the front door camera, correct?
Yes.
As the case officer, you obtained and controlled those Ring videos from One Meadows from the moment that they came into Massachusetts State Police custody until they were handed over to the Commonwealth, correct?
Yes, they were archived.
You drafted the search warrant for the Ring video access records, correct?
I did.
You obtained the warrant returns once those search warrants were executed, correct?
I did.
You took possession of Mr. O'Keefe's cell phone physically, correct?
Yes.
And you had access to Mr. O'Keefe's Ring account in that cell phone, is that right?
Correct.
You indicated that you reviewed several of the videos on his Ring app on his cell phone, is that right?
Yes.
So you obviously had not only possession of his cell phone, you had possession of his login account information to get into the app on his cell phone. Is that right?
I don't believe we had the password. We had his email account associated with the Ring.
Which means
Yeah.
some
So
way
you-
or another, you could get access to the Ring videos.
Correct.
And watch those Ring videos on his app on the phone.
Yes.
Which means you had full access to the app. You could keep videos, you could save for later, you could delete videos, you could do anything you wanted to within that app, correct?
Yes, those are the capabilities within that app.
Trooper Proctor, did you delete any of the Ring videos ever from John O'Keefe's phone?
Absolutely not.
Did you delete a video of Miss Reed arriving to One Meadows at approximately 12:41 a.m. on January 29th, 2022?
Absolutely not.
You will agree, Trooper Proctor, that the video of Miss Reed returning home from 34 Fairview at approximately 12:41 a.m. is not there.
Correct.
As the case officer, you're aware that Trooper DeChico also reviewed some or all of those videos, correct?
Yes.
And he did that at your request.
Correct.
He took notes of his review of those videos, correct?
Yes.
And then he provided those notes to you so that you could then memorialize those notes and your notes in a broader report that you then drafted in November of 2022, correct?
From memory serves me, the report I wrote regarding the Ring camera was based off my observations of the videos that I had watched.
But you certainly did have, as you just indicated, you did accumulate his notes and review his notes as well as your own notes, correct?
That's my recollection. I wrote that report off of my notes.
Did you actually, at any point before writing your report, did you note or did you review his notes?
I can't recall.
You asked him, he reviewed the videos at your directions, correct? At
Yes.
your direction, correct?
Yes.
And obviously he would have wanted to provide you whatever insights he had into his review of those videos. Otherwise, what's the point, right?
Correct.
So when you reviewed his notes, did you see that they were on some sticky pads? You remember that?
That sounds about right.
Proctor. Dr. Shapiro.
Do you recall exactly, as you sit here, exactly what was on one or more of those sticky pads that you reviewed from Trooper DeChico?
I don't know.
Would it refresh your recollection if you would take a look at a copy of those notes?
Yes.
May I, Your Honor?
Yes.
Wish I could find that ad again. Dr. Shapiro. So who deleted the video? I guess the Ring video never shows her showing back up at the house, right? I appreciate this, Charlotte. Thank you for not leaving me.
If you would mind taking a look at the top or the uppermost top note that's highlighted with a sticky note next to it.
Who deleted the video? Or why is there no video of that? Thanks, Josh. It's like hell outside. Like the end of the world, pouring rain. I even opened the window because I want to hear the rain.
Okay, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Approach.
Yes.
Sure.
Right. Who had access to the Ring app besides John?
Super
I
Proctor,
don't
do you
know.
have these notes in mind?
The kid said Karen
Specifically
didn't
the
have
uppermost
access.
note?
The 0041?
Correct.
It wouldn't make sense for Karen
Yes.
to delete it either. I don't think. Yeah.
You reviewed this previously before you wrote your report, correct?
Yes.
All right. And you note that at 0041, which is a time relative to what DeChico was looking at on the Ring video, he indicated taillights from driveway, parentheses, I think she arrived home, in parentheses, correct?
Correct.
0041 is what? What's that in reference to?
Just after midnight, the approximate time where Miss Reed will be returning from Fairview Road.
It's military time for 12:41 a.m., correct?
Yes.
You wrote a report on November, I'm sorry, I earlier said November, it's actually June 1, 2022, memorializing the times that were of note to you in that Ring footage, correct?
Yes.
Do you recall every single entry that you made concerning the events that were of note to you that were reflected in your report?
The majority of them. Maybe not every single one.
Would it refresh your recollection to look at a copy of your report to determine what all you did and did not note?
Yes, sir.
Fair approach?
Sure. Do you have it with you, Trooper? Do you have your report with you?
What's wrong? Okay.
I'd ask you to review that report, especially as to page 2 and 3.
Oh. Cynthia, I got your DM. Thank you. I'll play the video on the break. Thank you so much.
May I approach?
Yes.
Thank you. Trooper, do you have those events in mind?
I do.
Your report is dated June 1st, 2022, correct?
Correct.
And reflected in this report are the bullet points of the times that you found of some note in your review of all of the Ring footage from One Meadows, correct?
Yes.
In your report, there is no mention of the footage showing Karen Reed arriving home at 12:41 a.m., correct?
Correct.
And that's notwithstanding the fact that in Trooper DeChico's report, in his handwritten notes, he makes note of an event at 12:41 a.m. indicating, I think she arrived home, correct?
Correct.
So sometime between when Trooper DeChico wrote his notes and when you wrote your report, that video footage vanished, correct?
There's also no date on Trooper DeChico's notes. We have many dates from Ring video, so I don't know if he's referencing a different date.
Well, you're aware that the video footage from 12:41 a.m. is gone, correct?
Yes, it's something I've tried to find through Ring for months, as well as the video when Miss Roberts, Miss McCabe, Miss Reed arrived back at John's and they're looking at the broken taillight. That video is gone as well.
Ooh,
So at some point, while this footage was in Massachusetts State Police custody and being reviewed by Trooper DeChico, that video existed, didn't it?
Objection.
The objection is sustained.
Kim.
Mr. Jackson, don't waive that again, okay?
Yes, Your Honor. The fact
butt
is,
deleted it? Someone butt deleted it?
Trooper DeChico's handwritten notes, there's no video of 12:41 on January 29th, is there?
No, there isn't.
This case is crazy, man. Like every witness
Trooper
has
Proctor,
some
would
like.
you agree that from the
crazy
very beginning
shit.
of your investigation, you treated Karen Reed very differently than you treated the Alberts and the McCabe's in this case?
Objection.
I'll allow it. Was she treated differently?
Absolutely not. Like I've said before, we followed the facts and the evidence, an open mind.
Did you consider her to be, for want of a better phrase, an outsider?
No, not at all.
Not somebody from Canton,
No, not at all.
not family, not friends with the Alberts?
Absolutely not.
At some point, your view of this case caused you to turn what could be described as a bias into an out-and-out hatred. Would you agree with that?
Wow.
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you develop some sort of hatred for Miss Reed at
Objection.
any point in your investigation?
I'll allow it.
Again, we followed the facts and evidence which showed Miss Reed hit Mr. O'Keefe with her vehicle. And yes, at times I got emotional because of that. And I said some stuff, texted some things I shouldn't have, but it was based off the evidence.
As a matter of fact, you did express your feelings about Miss Reed in yet another text message that we haven't gone over yet today. Is that right? On February 4th, 2022? Might as well turn to tab 10.
Tab 10?
It's either the bait stamp or the,
This is triple F, this is Foxtrot. And the base stamp is 2526.
Yes, sir.
Do you see an entry from Courtney Proctor, a text starting, "I didn't give my"?
Yes.
Request permission to publish, Your Honor?
yes.
2526, Mr. Bates. On that date, February 4th, 2022, your sister texted in relation to some sort of donation that she had given. "I didn't give my name as I didn't want anyone to link me to Michael," meaning you, correct?
Objection, Your Honor. May we approach?
Okay, take that down.
It's so funny that some of these people, they're saying that I'm being contrarian because of my opinion. Oh my God. There's other people. I unfollowed him because of what he said with regards to Karen. Look at these people. Oh my God.
You are unmuted.
Crazy. How many people upset? Holy shit. Cold.
Yes.
You see the text from Courtney Proctor. I did not give my name as I didn't want anyone to link me.
So that's stricken. That's what was objected to, just this one, or the whole page goes in.
You responded to a text message from your sister, correct? And your response was, hopefully she kills herself, correct?
Yes.
Who's she?
The defendant.
Miss Reed?
Correct.
You literally said that you hope that Karen Reed, the subject of your investigation, the woman sitting to my left, about 7 feet from me, that she would just die, correct?
Harry Potter, where you been at?
It's a figure of speech.
You wanted her to, the figure of speech is you
Your
wanted
face.
her to kill herself.
No.
What?
No, it's not.
Trooper Proctor, Karen Reed, in your investigation, had quickly become a very serious problem for you, hadn't she?
Who's up
Objection.
One of these Twitter people?
Did you believe that Karen Reed was a problem or an issue for your investigation?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
No, absolutely not.
In your words, quote, all the powers that be want answers ASAP. That's what you texted on January 29th, right?
Yes.
That put a lot of pressure on you, didn't it, Trooper Proctor?
There's a lot of pressure in every case, sir.
This case involves a Boston cop whose family you were actually connected to, correct?
Loosely.
Chris Albert, loosely.
Yes.
Julie Albert, loosely.
Yes.
Colin Albert, loosely.
Yes.
Kevin Albert, loosely.
Yes.
Loose enough to leave his badge and his gun in your cruiser after a night of drinking, right?
Objection.
Sustained.
You agreed in your group chat that you needed to, quote, make this cut and dry because another cop was involved. Those are your words, right?
Objection.
Where is this?
This was referred to in earlier text messages, group chats this morning.
So is that right? Did you say that, sir?
I did text that. I don't know if it's in the exact context. But yes, those were my words.
Chat.
Yes, that was in the group chat.
Your friends wrote this whole thing, in their words, stinks, correct?
Yes, I interpret that as a joke.
You believed, Trooper Proctor, that your life would be much easier if Karen Reed was just dead, didn't you?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
No. Like I had said, it was a figure of speech. My emotions got the best of me based on, the fact that Miss Reed hit Mr. O'Keefe with her vehicle and left him to die on the side of the road. So my emotions got the best of me with that figure of speech.
Well, let's talk about your figures of speech. During the course of your investigation, your figures of speech include the following. She's a bitch.
Objection.
Is that right?
Yes.
A whack job, correct?
Yes.
A retard, right?
Yes.
Oh.
Her balloon knot leaks, right?
Oh no.
Yes.
No ass, correct?
Oh.
Yes.
She's
He keeps
fucked,
repeating all
according
these,
to you, right?
all these
Yes.
trigger words.
Ass leaker. That was the word you used.
Oh,
a figure
God.
of speech, right?
Correct.
A girl who shits herself, right?
Oh,
Correct.
Jesus.
And then fuck her, correct?
Correct.
Would you agree, Trooper Proctor, that you have dehumanized Karen Reed during the course of your investigation with comments and words like this?
Objection.
I'll give you this one, Mr. Jackson.
Would you agree with that?
I would say based off that language, yes.
And you admitted, in your own words, that the cop homeowner wasn't going to, quote, catch any shit, right?
Correct.
Because you were out to, quote, make this cut and dry. Isn't that right?
The homeowner was going to catch any shit because Mr. Elbert had nothing to do with Mr. O'Keefe's death.
Because you were going to make sure that the case was cut and dry. Those were your words, right?
Objection.
Sustained.
And Trooper Proctor, it would be far easier for you to pin it on the girl who's just a whack job cunt, in your words, who you hope just kills herself, right?
Objection.
Sustained.
Shame on you, sir.
Objection.
All right, so jurors, disregard that. I've told you before, lawyers can't make comments. They can ask questions. And Mr. Jackson, you know better than that.
Yeah, that's all I have.
Mr. Lally?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Now, when you had started with cross-examination the other day, you were asked some questions about whether or not in August of 2022 you disliked or did not like Mr. Yannetti, correct?
That's correct.
Why was that?
Well, basically, he stood up in open court and spouted lie after lie about me, called me corrupt and conflicted, dragged my name through the mud after I spent 10 plus years without a single complaint filed against me, and he had no basis or no facts for these wild accusations, because there are none. This investigation was done with the utmost integrity, not just by me, but my supervisors and other troopers in my office, as well as Mr. Yannetti shows up at my sister's school yesterday.
What?
In the parking lot where he's not welcomed, or where people are not supposed to be, with one of their witnesses and their private investigator. And a teacher sees this, it informs Mr. Yannetti that he can't be there, and instead of saying okay and leaving, he asks, is Courtney Proctor in the building? Does she work here? She calls me to see if she was being served.
Snap, go ahead. Snap, Proctor.
Can we approach?
Yes.
Nah. Is that for real, though? This guy showed up, what he said, to his sister's school? Is that what he said? How old is his sister? My only thing, Sherlock, with the thing yesterday, I was being animated, but I was calling some of these people out because some people are accusing the kids of being involved in a conspiracy, so I disagree with that. So did Yannetti really show up to the school? What? What? This guy's standing in front of my front door like a weirdo. What the fuck? I don't know. Okay, he's just standing there. There was he had a kid, but the kid walked away. It looks like it went downstairs. Okay, all right. What the hell? I guess that's so weird. I almost want to turn on the mic and say, hey! Let me turn it on. Ah! Okay, he lives on the other side. I never seen that guy. He turned around. She's a teacher. Okay, so they show up to the school, and okay, it's not a kid. Proctor. Look at Karen's face. She always has like a smug look in her face, kind of like. I can tell the attention. I feel like the attention's gotten to her a bit. Hell nah, he need milk.
Oh, somebody! Oh, he needs some milk.
Ash MJ says 500 a month. Love your Mel. Isn't that crazy for people to think that? Like when I worked my regular jobs, I was making more than that. Like what? What the? What? This YouTuber is really upset about my tweet. I replied to her. She put it in her community post. I really want to see what these people are going to say after the verdict. And what the funny thing about these people, they're talking about I once respected Mel. Like, so you want me to like lie about my opinion? Is that respectable? Blair over there talking shit too, kinda. I'm so disappointed. So you wanted me to lie to appease you people? The fuck? We were disappointed, Mel. We wanted you to lie. I mean, people disagree. I think actually majority of the people watching right now disagree about the case. And that's fine. Majority of people disagree, I think, when we do the polls. Her name is Ali something. Aussie Ali. She was on Twitter yesterday going back and forth, and then she made a tweet. Not a tweet, she made a community post. I don't even know if I've ever heard of her before, but she was just like, oh, I'm disappointed. I respected him. Well, you want me to lie? Oh, let's put pulling school vid for you. So, let me see.
Oh, first of all, let's start off with this Auntie Bev. Can we just talk about what a cunt she is? I mean, like, what did she eat cunt flakes in the morning? Why is she like that yesterday?
Cunt flakes in the morning.
Let's start off with the pretrial nonsense.
The same people that are outraged about the word cunt use it all the time in their daily life. I mean,
start off with why trial nonsense. David Yannetti would be well in line to smack a hoe. Oh, first of all, let's.
Oh my God. Okay, hold on. Oh, why is Yannetti lucky at elementary school? Oh, he is right there. That's the picture right there. This guy showed up, but he showed up for this. He didn't show up for a kid, but he cut flakes. I've never heard of him, but it's kind of funny. that is a little funny. I mean, I know some people are offended by that word, but that was kind of funny. I guess this is Yannetti at the school. This video might be demonetized just because I said the word. Probably, I don't know. I wonder, this might be the most tumultuous, I don't know if that's the right word, tumultuous case that I've come, or divisive, maybe, I don't know, divisive case I've come.
Words or spellings or
Yo, but what's his name? Proctor was snapping. I guess Proctor's been holding it in all this time. He was upset because he was getting grilled. I ain't gonna lie, he was getting grilled. So now Proctor got his chance to talk shit. He was snapping for a minute. We might have to rewind that.
You are unmuted.
Please rise for the jury.
Oh, he explained there. All right, when they take a break, he said, "Look at Turtle Boy's tweet." David Yeti was seen meeting with a witness and plow driver Canton yesterday, apparently at an elementary school where Courtney Proctor works. Fact check: you're allowed to meet witnesses prior to their testimony, which is exactly what the DA's office has done. Every single witness they've called. Lauren is expected to give damning testimony about John's body. It's not on Brian Albert's front lawn at 2:30. Who's that? The snowplow guy? And it's a Ford Edge. She parked outside the house at 3 a.m. Yo, imagine it was somebody else that killed John. Like, it wasn't even nobody inside the house. It wasn't Karen. Like, it was like a hit and run outside.
Jurors,
and that person's just watching the trial.
I'm striking that last answer. It was probably a partial answer cut off. I'm striking it completely, disregarded. If you took notes, cross the notes out.
Why?
You're not to consider it in any way. It is completely stricken from the record.
Oh my God.
And Trooper, I'd suggest you listen to the question being asked of you before you answer it.
My apologies, Your Honor.
He was waiting to get that off.
Trooper Proctor, try that again. As far as you were asked about text messages that occurred in August of 2022 in which you indicated that you did not like Mr. Gannett, correct?
Correct.
And so at the time of that text message, it was sent in August of 2022. Why was that?
In August of 2022, why was that?
Yes.
The reasons I laid out, the false accusations of being conflicted and corrupt spouted in an open court, which there's zero evidence of. Like I said, I stand by the integrity of this investigation, as well as every trooper and supervisor in my office.
Were there also motions filed by Mr. Yannetti or by counsel containing photographs of yourself and some children?
Yes.
And what, if anything, were the allegations in regard to the children that were depicted in those photographs?
So the photograph was taken in my parents' backyard.
Objections overruled.
My parents' backyard at a pool party. There's some little kids in the photo. Defense counsel kept insinuating that those were the McCabe's children, when in fact they were my family, my cousins.
Have you at any point in time ever met any children of the McCabe's?
No, sir.
In the course of this investigation, as it was sort of alleged on cross-examination, did you essentially pick a suspect and then try to have the evidence fit that?
Objection. The form, meaning, in that form, it's strictly not allowed to ask if that relates to them.
How did you conduct this investigation, you and the other troopers in your office?
From the start of this investigation, with an open mind. Like I said earlier, we didn't know what we had, possible medical. So as the day went on and we collected more evidence and developed compelling evidence against Ms. Reed.
Now, with reference to this investigation, it continued after January 29th, 2022, when you had those text communications with your friends, correct?
Yes.
Was there additional information that you compiled over the course of that investigation following January 29th, 2022?
I'm sorry, say that again, please.
Following that date of those text messages on January 29th, 2022, yes. Was there additional information that was gathered over the course of your investigation by yourself or other troopers involved in the investigation?
Yes.
And from that additional information that was gathered, what, if any, information that was gathered throughout the course of the investigation indicated that anyone besides Ms. Reed had anything to do with Ms. O'Keefe's death?
All the information gathered after that date indicated no one else was responsible for Mr. O'Keefe's death.
Sir, you were asked some questions on cross-examination about testimony in a prior proceeding and shown specifically at page 01563, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
Sir, I'm giving you 01562, 63, and 64, and that's to read those and look up.
What were the numbers again, Mr. Lally?
1562, 63, and 64, I believe.
It's funny. Lily was saying, when you have to read out your response to the question, is she hot? And you know your wife is watching. That woman ride or die because she still posted a message of support, even though he said those things. And now people are messaging her, calling her all kinds of stuff. Proctor. We gotta rewind back late. When this is done, I want to see his when he snapped. I wasn't fully paying attention. I didn't realize they were gonna cut him off. We gotta go back to when he snapped. He's been holding that shit in since the other day. Oh man. I forgot. I even forgot what the attorney asked. He asked like one thing, and he went on like a rant. Snapped. These motherfuckers doing this and that. Motherfuckers show up to the school, whatever. I was like, oh, what? I was like, what? Oh, they're going into that chick, the rifle. There's some other stuff too I saw from other witnesses. People were just, people online, they feel very strongly, so they're reaching out to witnesses and DMing them and saying all kinds of shit. There's one person said, I would blast you in your mouth until you choke.
Reviewing those 3 pages, is there now more context to what you were just asked about on one specific page of that testimony?
Not to me, to one of them.
And those were questions related to what you had told and what you had informed other people within the office or your supervisors in relation to relationships with both the McCabe's and the Albers, correct?
Correct.
And in the course of that testimony, did you relay to that body the same testimony you just relayed to this jury in regard to photographs of children and defense counsel attributing those to being the McCabe's children, which they were not?
Yes.
Now, you were asked some questions by Mr. Jackson in regard to what you knew or why your focus was not on Brian Alberts later on in the evening of January 29, 2022, correct?
Correct.
And why was that? Why was your focus not on Brian Albert at that time?
There was just no evidence that Mr. Al was involved anyway. Like I said before, from witness interviews, the statements Ms. Reed provided to witnesses, the one shoe left at the scene, the taillight pieces found underneath the snow that were dug out by the CERT team, the injuries to Mr. O'Keefe, the one shoe at the hospital that was observed. Her statements to us, Sergeant Mechanic and I, while we interviewed her, clearly the broken taillight and the fact that leaving Brockton, instead of going to Dighton, she backtracked to go to Canton to retrieve her vehicle and then go double back to go to Dighton, which I found odd.
Now, if at any point in time over the course of your investigation you had evidence which led you to believe that Mr. Albert was involved in the death of Mr. O'Keefe, what would you have done?
Objection.
Ask it differently.
With regard to, again, you testified Beyond January 29th, at any point in your investigation, did you find any information or evidence leading you to believe that Brian Albert was involved in the death of John O'Keefe?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
No.
Now, if you had found information leading to that conclusion or evidence leading to that, what would you have done?
Objection.
Then allow it.
Not only myself, but members of my office would have pursued that.
Regardless of his position, correct?
Regardless of what he does for a profession.
You want me to approach?
Yes.
Proctor. No, Kim said she has her lawyer sending her husband divorce papers on Father's Day. That'd be crazy. This is a crazy case, man. All the witnesses got some crazy shit. It's like not there's no like regular witness.
That is text communications between me and my high school buddies.
And sir, if I could direct your attention within there to page 2535.
Yes, sir.
You were asked some questions about text on that page, but also there's a text on that page that begins with, they arrived at house together, correct?
Correct.
And what is the date and time associated with that text message that you sent?
That was sent on January 29th, 2022 at 11 p.m.
And what is the content, or what did you send to that group, that text message?
The message reads, they arrived at the house together, got into an argument. She was driving and left.
So that's also information that you had late in the evening of January 29th, 2022, correct?
Objection.
Confirm that, Sister.
With respect to that information you conveyed in that text message, when did you learn them?
During the course of the day on the 29th.
Mayor Pro Trump?
Yes.
Mr. Retreat? Now, you were asking questions about people that you spoke to on the 29th, correct?
Yes.
And that included Brian Albert, Jennifer McCabe, Matthew McCabe, Kerry Roberts, is that correct?
Trooper DeChico and Trooper Dunn interviewed Miss Roberts.
And my apologies. When I was saying you, I meant collectively.
Yes.
But you specifically yourself and Sergeant Mechanic, you also spoke with the defendant on January 29th, correct?
Correct.
And that would have been prior to any of the text communications that were contained within that chat with your friends, correct?
Correct.
Let me ask you something about charging decisions. Is that something that you make in this case or any case?
I don't make any charging decisions. We're essentially fact finders.
So as far as what Ms. Reed was charged with or when she was charged with it, that's not something that's within your purview, correct?
No, not at all.
Now, specifically, you were asked some questions about some text messages between yourself and Trooper DeChico in regard to the medical exam, correct?
Correct.
And those occurred in April of 2022, is that correct?
Yes.
Was the defendant, Ms. Reed, charged with murder in April of 2022?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
No.
That wasn't until June of 2022, correct?
That's correct.
And that was at the conclusion of the grand jury, is that correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
And you're aware that there was a grand jury in this case, correct?
Objection. I'll withdraw that.
Okay.
Yes.
Answer that.
And are you aware of certain witnesses that testified at the grand jury?
Objection.
I'll allow that.
Yes.
Are you aware that Dr. Sporty Bello testified at the grand jury?
Objection.
I'll allow that.
Yes.
And so, false reason then that the defendant wasn't charged with murder until after the grand jury concluded and Dr. Sporty Bello had testified before that grand jury, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Now, the Albert family that you were familiar with some members of, that's not an entity, correct?
No.
Individual members of a family, some you know, some you may not, correct?
Objection.
Sustained. Watch your phone, Mr. Merrill.
Certainly not. how many members of the Albert family did you know when you started this investigation in January, or when you received this call on January 29th, 2022?
Julie, Chris Albert, Colin, and Kevin Albert.
Now, you were asked some questions about interviewing Julie Albert and Chris Albert at their home on February 10th, correct?
Yes.
Now, with respect to that date, had you ever been to that home prior to February 10th?
I'd not been to that, this kind of their new home. I'd never been to their new home or the previous home either.
Now, as far as conversations with either Julie or Chris Albert, when was the last time you talked to them before you interviewed them on February 10th?
I believe I'd reached out to Julie to coordinate the interview, but prior to this case, there was that one random text message she sent me and my sister when I was going on a family ski trip. They weren't a part of it. She wanted me to take a video of my sister skiing, but
That was February 2022. Correct?
yeah.
So what my question is prior to February 10th, 2022, prior to any arrangements to schedule an interview for February 10th, when was the last time that you spoke to either Julie Albert or Chris Albert, if you know?
I don't know. I can't remember.
Now, with regard to that text message in regard to skiing in late February 2022, you were shown that text message, correct?
Yes.
Was there any response from you?
No.
Did you have any further communication with Julie Albert after that interview on January 29th, 2022, related to this investigation?
I recall serving her for grand jury. I know she wanted to kind of have an idea of what the process was like. So there's communications regarding that.
And was that something that was solely done with Julie Albert or other witnesses, or what?
All the witnesses that were called in the grand jury, it's unusual for, the majority of civilians to be called in the grand jury. So they obviously have questions about the process.
Now, as far as babysitting for your children, is that something that Julie Albert ever did?
No.
And as far as those text communications between yourself and your sister regarding that, is that something that you had asked for, or something that your sister had suggested?
Yeah, my sister had suggested that. We never followed up with having Julie watch my kids.
Now, you were asked some questions about text messages with your sister Courtney, correct?
Correct.
And I believe a couple times you would use the term, well, let me ask you this first. With regard to from January 29th throughout at least January, February 2022, this was this case became something that was on the news on a fairly regular basis, correct?
News and social media, yes.
And so when you were using the term in describing what you spoke to your sister about as far as newsworthy, what did you mean by that?
My sister lives in Canton, so there's a lot of, as well on the news and social media stuff that was being discussed in those platforms.
Now, as far as the discussions that you had with regard to your sister, how would you describe or how would you characterize the type of information that you shared with her, if any?
Just general information, nothing specific about the case.
All right, guys.
You were also asked about a specific text from your sister on January 30th. It started out with, I believe it was Jesus Christ. Is that correct?
Yes.
And that was in reference to the body of Mr. O'Keefe being found on Brian Albert's lawn, correct?
Correct.
And so she's asking you about that on January 30th, correct?
Yes.
So fair to reason that wasn't something that you shared with her prior to January 30th, correct?
Correct.
And something that you hadn't shared with her at all at that point that you received that text communication, correct?
Correct.
Sustain just to inform. Watch how you ask these questions, Mr. Valley. He's your witness.
Yeah, sure. With regard to that information, as far as who the homeowner was, what, if anything, had you shared with your sister Courtney prior to you receiving that text from her, indicating her knowledge?
Yeah, I don't recall sharing anything with in regards to the homeowner.
Now, in regard to any issues of a gift or request for a gift, how would you characterize that? Was that serious? Was that in jest? How would you characterize that?
I didn't take
I'll allow it.
I didn't take that offer seriously. And as I had mentioned, I believe on Monday, that I didn't ask for a gift. I never received one. I kind of said, get my wife a gift. She had been home about 10 straight nights with the boys. We had another homicide the week before. So that was my response, get Elizabeth one. And she never received one.
Now, you were asked some questions about Colin Albert, correct?
Correct.
And as far as what, if any, information did you have as far as Colin Albert and his being at 34 Fairview at the same time as anyone from coming back from the waterfall?
It was my understanding Colin arrived later on to just see his cousin's birthday. He didn't stay that long, maybe an hour, a little over an hour. And as he was leaving, I think he ran into his aunt and uncle as his ride had arrived out front and left at sometime around 12:10 a.m.
Was that information that you had prior to your interview with Colin Albert?
Yeah, we knew Colin wasn't at the house. The timing was provided by Colin.
And at any point in time in your investigation, what, if any, evidence did you ever receive that Colin Albert was at 34 Fairview at the same time as Mr. O'Keefe or the defendant?
Based on Mr. O'Keefe's cell phone location data using his Waze app, Colin Albert is leaving around like 12:10 a.m. Mr. O'Keefe is about a half a mile away at 12:20 a.m. So they did not cross paths.
Now, Mr. Jackson was asking about some people as far as interviews or later in October or so of 2022 or beyond. You were given 5 names as far as Brian Albert Jr., Julie Nagel, Ms. Kent, Ms. Fabiano, Ms. Alba, and Ms. Levinson, and Colin Albert, correct?
Yes.
And then you were asked about 3 people that you had interviewed, and then were asked if there was only 1 person left, that being Colin Albert, correct?
Correct.
That math match up as far as 5 people, 3 given, and only 1 person not interviewed?
No.
Now, with reference to Ms. Kent, Ms. Fabiano, and Ms. Alba, to your knowledge, have they been interviewed at any point in time?
No.
Or why not?
They weren't present for when the adults had arrived back from the waterfall.
So they had left 34 Fairview, like Colin Albert, prior to the waterfall people coming in.
Objection.
Sustained is that hold.
What, if any, information did you have with regards to the whereabouts of Ms. Kent, Ms. Fabiano, Ms. Alba, and Colin Albert in relation to 34 Fairview and the arrival of people from the waterfall?
They had left the residence.
So, with respect to Colin Albert, why was it that he was interviewed and not Ms. Kent, Ms. Fabiano, and Ms. Alba?
Colin was falsely accused of
Objection.
Can you answer that same question Mr. Lally asked you differently?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, go ahead. Answer it.
Colin was the subject of a third-party culprit that had no evidence to back that up.
Oh shit. Oh, shit.
That had no evidence to back that up, that he was involved whatsoever.
Oh.
My office and myself felt the need to interview Colin, sit him down, and get his story, or his facts of that evening. So that's why we interviewed him at that date and time later on.
And when you say we,
have they proven
do you
the third
recall
party?
who was present with you when you interviewed Colin Albert?
Trooper Zachary Clark.
Are you aware of Sergeant Mechanic getting screenshots from both Colin Albert and from Miss Allie McCabe in relation to text communications they had about picking up Colin Albert from 34 Fairview on January 29th?
Yes.
You were asked some questions about Ms. McCabe's cell phone, is that correct?
Yes.
And as far as any material on that phone, are you an expert when it comes to cell phone extractions and what different material may mean within a Cellbrite extraction?
No, that's left to Trooper Garino in our office.
Are you aware of reports regarding those searches from Trooper Nicholas Garino, a Ms. Jessica Hyde, and a Mr. Ian Whiffen?
I am aware of those, yes.
And those are people who are experts, those are people who have special knowledge or specialized knowledge as it relates to Cellbrite technology that you do not, correct?
Objection.
Form of the question is sustained.
What, if any, knowledge are you aware of Trooper Nicholas Garino, Ms. Jessica Hyde, and Mr. Ian Whiffen having with respect to Cellbrite or cell phone technology that you do not have?
Objection.
Allowing it under voting.
May we approach?
Sure.
Sidebar. Sidebar. Okay. Where we at? Okay, it's almost 3 o'clock. Got about probably an hour left for today's trial. Once they get to the end of the day, I'll rewind it because I just want to see this guy snap again. And then, then whatever. We'll continue from there. Cynthia, thank you for the super chat. Proctor looks wicked. Tired. Wicked tired by third-party culprit defense. So that third-party culprit thing, I know they've mentioned it multiple times through the trial because they believe other people are involved in John's murder. So it's just the third-party culprit evidence. It's supposed to be evidence that someone else committed the crime charged or had intent, motive, or opportunity to do so. So, I don't know. They pointed the fingers at a lot of people.
Proctor looks wicked tired by third-party culprit defense.
Colin, Brian Higgins. I'm trying to think of who else. Brian. I don't know. I would have thought too. I mean, so here's the thing too, because I think I heard some people kind of argue this. Some people are saying, well, if there's a conspiracy, these people got all these people's text messages. Where's the conspiracy conversations?
You are unmuted.
Some people are saying, oh, why would they talk about a conspiracy on their phones?
Procedure?
Yes.
Let me rephrase that just a little. As far as you're aware that Trooper Nicholas Garino, Ms. Jessica Hyde, and Mr. Ian Whiffen have all looked at Ms. McCabe's Cellbrite and extraction information, correct?
Yes.
And their knowledge, their specialized knowledge in regard to those areas exceeds your own, correct?
Yes.
Now, as far as your conversations with Kevin Allen, how would you characterize those in relation to this investigation?
They had nothing to do with this investigation. Like I said, we were working a cold case together. We also work on other cases together that, unattended deaths that I'll respond to a potential suicide or an overdose in the town of Canton that I'll respond to. But the topic of our conversations were in regards to the cold case or unresolved case that we're working together.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
The documents I did the other day. You recognize that?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
I do.
What do you recognize that?
Text communication with Kevin Albert.
And sir, if I could direct your attention to debate stamp pages of 2600 and 2601.
Yes, sir.
Now, in regard to activities on that particular date, you had indicated that you had conversations with Kevin Albert about working a cold case from the town of Canton, correct?
Yes.
And specifically on that date, where did the two of you go?
remember, I recall going down to the Cape to at least interview at least one person of interest.
And that was down in the town of Sandwich, to be specific, is that correct?
Yes.
Now, in reference to Kevin Albert leaving his badge in your car, you recall that?
I do.
If I could direct your attention to page 2602. And what, if any, text communication is contained on that page as far as you asking Kevin Albert any questions about his address?
After I informed Kevin Albert I had located his badge, I follow up, what's your address? I will drop it off after the gym.
So you're asking his address because you don't know his address, correct?
Correct.
Sustained.
Why are you asking for his address?
I've never been to his house and I don't know where he lives.
You're so close with him that you don't know where his house is, correct?
Sustained.
I approach this to retrieve your honor.
Yes.
You were asked some questions about ring videos from One Meadows Avenue, Mr. O'Keefe's home, is that correct?
Yes.
And to be clear, did you delete any ring videos from Mr. O'Keefe's account, either on his app on his phone or from the materials that you received pursuant to the search?
Absolutely not.
Now, when you saw that there were ring videos missing from times that you expected videos to be, specifically what I'm asking about is Ms. Reed or the defendant's arrival at the home after leaving Fairview Road, and Ms. McCabe, Ms. Roberts, and the defendant's departure from One Meadows to Fairview Road later on that morning. What did you do?
I reached out to Ring several different times. They informed me if a video is deleted, there's no digital footprint of that. It's essentially kind of gone forever.
And with respect to that time frame, what, if any, other additional steps did you take to try to retrieve that video? Was there a second search warrant, sir?
Yes.
You were looking for additional information from that same ring video, correct?
Objection sustained.
What, if anything, were you looking for in that second search?
Additional video.
You were asked some questions about notes from Trooper DeChico, correct?
Correct.
And as far as that 0041 note, do you know what that means?
That just tells me it's a time.
And do you know specifically whether or not that is something that Trooper DeChico saw or something that Trooper DeChico was looking for?
That's something Trooper DeChico could answer for.
Harry Potter.
Can I have just a moment?
Yes.
Sir, you were asked some questions about Sallyport video at the Canton Police Station, correct?
Yes.
When you arrived at the Sallyport garage of the Canton Police Station sometime around or shortly after 5:30 p.m., correct?
Yes.
Now, that 5:30 p.m. time, is that before or after 5:07 a.m.?
After.
And 5:07 a.m. is when the Exhibit 6, video number, I believe, 153, with the defendant backing out of the garage where you testified on Monday, you observed some damage to the taillight, correct?
Correct.
And you're aware of some other ring video from Mr. O'Keefe's house showing the defendant, Ms. Roberts and Ms. McCabe, arriving at his house, in which you can see damage to the right passenger taillight, correct?
Correct.
Are you aware of a cruiser camera video from the Canton Police Station, Police Department, specifically Lieutenant Ray, going to One Meadows Ave 822 in the morning on the 29th, in which you can also observe damage to the taillight?
Objection.
Sustained is 2-4.
As far as 822 in the morning, what, if any, video from One Meadows Avenue are you aware of depicting the defendant's taillight?
Canton Police Department went to conduct a well-being check, and on the dash cruiser camera, you can see the back of Miss Reed's vehicle and the right taillight to be broken and missing pieces.
And as far as your time at the home indicting the vehicle, the defendant's vehicle was towed from that location on that day, correct?
Correct.
And what, if any, video are you aware of from that driveway, which depicts the right rear passenger side tail light of the defendant's vehicle.
Yeah, as the vehicle's being put on the tow truck, you can make out that there's some pieces missing.
Now, sir, if I could turn you back to those text messages with your friends, January 29th, 2022. With that time in mind, at that point in time, well, let me ask before, as far as all those other videos that we talked to, all of those videos precede your time in the Sally Port garage at 5:30 p.m. on January 29th, correct?
Correct.
Now, with reference to, you mentioned in your testimony the other day, earlier, that at some point in time later in the day or early in that evening, you had met for a debriefing with yourself and the other troopers involved in the investigation on January 29th, is that correct?
Yes.
So fair to say the information that had been collected by yourself and the other troopers on January 29th, you had that in mind, or were you aware of that when you were involved in these text communications with your friends, correct?
Yes.
And so were you, at that time that you're texting with your friends, you had seen the defendant's vehicle?
Correct, yes.
And you had seen the damage to the taillight, correct?
Yes.
And you were aware that Lieutenant Tully and the CERT team had conducted a search around 34 Fairview and recovered Mr. O'Keefe's sneaker and a taillight?
Objection.
Sustained is too far.
What, if anything, were you aware of in regard to Lieutenant Tully doing with the CERT team at 34 Fairview earlier that day?
Detective Lieutenant Tully and the CERT team conducted a search, discovered several pieces of broken taillight pieces, as well as Mr. O'Keefe's missing shoe.
And the shoe that Lieutenant Tully and the CERT team had retrieved, what, if anything, did you observe in relation to that and the shoe that you and Sergeant Mechanic had retrieved from the Good Samaritan Hospital?
Yeah, they were matched. They were both black Nike sneakers with the white logo.
Now, you had talked to first responders, correct?
Yes.
And that included firefighter Flamati?
Correct.
And that included Sergeant Good?
Yes.
You had done interviews with regard to Brian Albert, correct?
Yes.
Jennifer McCabe, correct?
Correct.
Matthew McCabe, correct?
Yes.
The defendant?
Yes.
And other troopers from your unit had also interviewed Kerry Roberts, correct?
Yes.
Were you aware of statements that were attributed by Ms. Roberts and Ms. McCabe to the defendant as far as what she told them earlier that morning?
Yes.
And you're aware of statements that Ms. McCabe and Ms. Roberts had made to the troopers in regard to what they had observed that morning?
Yes.
Now, were you aware that both Ms. McCabe and Ms. Roberts indicated in interviews on January 29th that when they had got to 34 Fairview Road, they could not see Mr. O'Keefe's body? However, the defendant sort of bolted out of the backseat of the vehicle directly over to Mr. O'Keefe's body.
Objection.
You can ask that differently, Mr. Daly.
With respect to the statements from Ms. McCabe and Ms. Roberts in regard to their arrival at 34 Fairview around 6 a.m. in the morning, what, if anything, stood out to you or were you aware of in relation to those statements?
Yeah, from those statements, as Ms. Roberts was driving down Fairview, Ms. McCabe was in the passenger seat, Ms. Reed was in the back.
Right.
Obviously, whiteout conditions as they're coming down, like that slight hill, getting
Somehow
just before the left side of the property.
3D vision.
Ms. McCabe and Ms. Roberts indicated that. Ms. Reed said, "There he is. I see him. I see him." And Ms. McCabe and Ms. Roberts didn't know what Ms. Reed was talking about. They stopped the car. Ms. Reed ran directly over to John O'Keefe's body. And even when Ms. Reed had exited the vehicle, Ms. McCabe and Ms. Roberts still didn't know what was going on and what she was running to.
Now, were you aware from your conversation with firefighter Flamati that the defendant had stated, "I hit him," in the presence of firefighter Flamati earlier that morning?
Yes.
And were you also aware of statements the defendant made to other first responders about her being or getting into an argument with Mr. O'Keefe as she was dropping him off at 34 Fairview, indicating the last time she saw him?
Later on in subsequent interviews.
So at the time that you're sending these text communications within this group chat in the later part of the evening of January 29th, 2022. What is it that you did know in relation to your investigation with regard to Ms. Reed, the defendant, and or anyone else?
All right. So we knew the last person seen with Mr. O'Keefe alive was Miss Reed. We knew they were traveling to Fairview Road. Witnesses stated they saw a SUV out front of the house. It went from one side to the other. Miss McCabe was texting John, parked behind me, things of that nature. John never went into the house. And then the following morning, Miss Reed, Miss Roberts, and Miss McCabe located Mr. O'Keefe in the front lawn. I observed those injuries at the hospital. The one sneaker. Later on in the day, the CERT team, along with Detective Lieutenant Tully, found broken taillight pieces that matched Miss Reed's taillight, as well as the missing sneaker that matched Mr. O'Keefe's vehicle. Some inconsistent statements that Miss Reed had provided to Sergeant Mechanic and I.
So at the time that you made those comments, disparaging comments in regard to Ms. Reed in the context of those communications with your friends, as inexcusable, as unprofessional as those comments are, the information you had was that Ms. Reed had struck Mr. O'Keefe with her vehicle.
Yeah, you've got to watch the form, Mr. Allen. It's a stream.
The time that you made those inexcusable and unprofessional comments, what did you believe the defendant had done to Mr. O'Keefe?
Oh, let's go. What?
I believe, based on all the physical evidence and facts, Mr. O'Keefe got out of that vehicle holding that cocktail glass he walked out of the waterfall bar with. Miss Reed pulled ahead and then backed into him, struck him with her vehicle, and then left.
And then came back 5.5 hours later, correct?
Correct.
Wow.
Proctor. Oh.
Mr. Jackson?
Very briefly, Your Honor. So you think that your assessment, personal assessment, that Karen Reed had struck this officer with a car gave you license to call her a cunt?
Objection.
Right?
Based on the evidence, sir, my motions got the best of me, so it was in poor taste. Yes, it was it was inappropriate, juvenile, but it was my motions that gotten the best of me.
And you called her a whack job. Gave you license to call her that too?
Yes.
Gave you license to say to your friends, oh, no. She's fucked. Right?
That's what I wrote.
Gave you license to say that she's a retard.
Again, another disgusting comment.
Sir, you had an agenda from moment one, did you not?
Objection.
Sister.
Did you have an agenda?
Objection.
Sister, same question.
Thought it was a good one the first time. So the fact that you believe personally that your narrative was she hit him with a car, you get to talk about her leaky balloon knot.
Oh, God.
Right?
Objection.
Oh, God. Here we go.
You indicated
I can't blame him. He's doing what he got to do. You want
on cross-examination
We're going to go through all those things he said again.
that you saw a video at 8:22 a.m. with some damage to Ms. Reed's right rear taillight, correct?
Yes.
8:22 before or after 5:07 a.m.?
After.
You also said that you had no idea where Kevin Albert lived, right?
Correct.
But you did say about getting his badge to him after that drunken night with him, that you just leave it in your mailbox, right?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
Yes, my mailbox.
Yeah. So he obviously knew where you lived.
Yes.
Ooh, Karen, look, she's laughing too. Karen
And
laughing.
then you said, there's no evidence whatsoever, your words, no evidence whatsoever. You talked about Brian Albert, Brian Higgins, Colin Albert, no evidence whatsoever that they were involved in the death of John O'Keefe, right?
Correct.
Trooper Proctor, you're the one responsible for gathering the evidence, correct?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
Right?
I am one part of a greater group of detectives that gathers evidence. I'm just one part of that unit.
You're the pointy end of the spear, aren't you?
Objection.
Sustained.
You're the case officer, the lead detective, correct?
Yes.
Sort of like the fox guarding the hen house, isn't it?
Objection.
That's sustained, Mr. Jackson. Do you have anything else?
She's like over it, the judge. You hear her? She's like,
All right, Trooper, you are all set.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Judge.
you said leaky butt. Didn't you? Disgusting. He did say some foul stuff.
Mr. Riley.
Yes, Your Honor. The Commonwealth call Lieutenant Brian Tully to the stand.
Brian Tully, I just want you to know that you are really special. Oh my, oh my, oh my. Hear ye, hear ye.
Step up.
Telly, let's see how this guy is.
Jury, in case down here, should the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Brian Telly is state police and a colleague of Michael Proctor's and Buklau.
All right, Mr. Riley, whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Would you please state your name and spell your last name for the jury?
Brian Tully, Tully,
And how are you employed, sir?
with the Massachusetts State Police.
And how long have you been a member of the state police?
18
I
years.
agree.
And
Proctor's gonna go to the
what
bar
rank or
tonight.
assignment do you currently have with the Mass State Police?
The rank I hold is Detective Lieutenant, and my current role is the Unit Commander for the Norfolk State Police Detective Unit.
And now, how long have you been? Let me ask you first, as far as how long have you been a lieutenant of the state police?
I was a first lieutenant in 2021, and then I attained the rank of Detective Lieutenant later in 2021.
And with reference to your current unit, how long have you been a member of that?
I've been with the Norfolk State Police Detective Unit for 12 years.
And prior to and throughout the course of your work within the detective unit, the Norfolk DA's office for the state police, what, if any, specialized training have you received and or given in regard to investigations and how they're conducted?
For the first 10 years as the rank of trooper and sergeant, I was on the homicide section of the unit. When first entering the unit, I received instruction on how to conduct homicide and death investigations. In addition to that, I attended over 200 hours of specialized training in the use of cell phones and cell phone technology in the furtherance of criminal investigations. Further on, I have now been an instructor about cell phones and cell phone technology and criminal investigations. I've taught death investigation classes around the Commonwealth, and as well as search and seizure law in Massachusetts.
Now, if I could ask you just with respect to your units, if you could explain to the jury sort of what is the role and what does your unit do with respect to death investigations within Norfolk County?
So each district attorney's office has a state police detective unit assigned to it. So Mass General Law, Section 38, Section 4 says that the district attorney is in charge of all death investigations. So if someone passes away, essentially not in the presence of a doctor, or the circumstances that led to their death was outside the presence of medical care, the district attorney is in charge of the investigation, or their representative. And so each DA has a state police detective unit assigned to them to act as their representative. In certain jurisdictions like Boston, Worcester, and Springfield, the DAs in those counties have said that those local departments can be their representatives, but throughout the Commonwealth, the state police is the DA's representative in those death investigations.
Now, as far as assignments go, or as far as how is it that, well, as far as how an investigation is run, how is it that a call comes in? If you could take the jury through sort of from the time the call comes in, how that investigation is.
I'll talk in a typical state. Oftentimes someone passes away, again, not in the presence of a doctor, gets found by somebody, a loved one, a friend, a passerby. They call 911, which gets routed to the local police, who respond and come to learn that someone has passed away in the circumstance. That police department will then call the troop headquarters on the state police. The state police is cut up into different troops by geographic location. Each troop duty lieutenant would have a list of who the on-call person is for the state police detective unit of jurisdiction. They would then call that trooper or sergeant directly to inform them that there's a death in a certain community and give them a telephone number to contact somebody who's directly on scene to get more information.
Now, as far as your role as sort of the supervisor or the lieutenant in charge of the unit, can you describe to the jury sort of what your role is in regard to those investigations?
So within the detective unit, we have the homicide section, a narcotics section does narcotics investigations, and a special investigation section. So specific to the homicide section, there are certain levels of supervision. We have a sergeant assigned to the homicide section. I have an executive officer who's a lieutenant, and then me. So multiple levels of supervision specific to any of the sections, including the homicide section.
Now, turning your attention to January 29th, 2022, at some point did you become aware in the morning with regard to a death within the town of Canton?
Yes.
And what, if any, when did you become aware, and how did you become aware initially of what had transpired?
Shortly after 7 a.m. that date, I received a call from Sergeant Yuri Buchanan informing me that a person by the name of John O'Keefe was found unresponsive in Canton. He was transported to Good Samaritan Hospital, where it was expected he was not to survive. Normally, I would not get a call like that, but we learned that Mr. O'Keefe was an active Boston police officer. Sergeant Buchanan wanted to make me aware of it at that point.
And so then what happened from there as far as your unit's involved?
So as we learned more information about what was found on scene by the Canton Police Department, Trooper Proctor, who was the on-call the on-call trooper that day on the schedule, and Sergeant Buchanan responded to Canton Police to begin the investigation. And they would keep me updated as they learned more information.
Now, as far as your unit is concerned, what, if any, role does your unit have, or what, if any, jurisdiction does your unit have with relation to any kind of death, whether it be homicide, suicide, unattended death, within the confines of Norfolk County? We have exclusive jurisdiction by law, but the law also suggests that we need to work with the local police departments as well. And so how is it that typically in a typical investigation that your unit would work in conjunction with the local police departments in relation to a death investigation?
Their detective unit would be involved if they have one, and some departments in Norfolk County don't. They would stand by to wait for our arrival. There'd be constant communication between the responding trooper and the detective on scene about things that need to be done prior to our arrival, but essentially wait for our guidance on what to do next.
And as far as certain investigations go, are there decisions sometimes that are made with regard to your involvement, or maybe your unit not being involved in a death investigation?
Yes.
And how are those determinations made, and who makes those determinations?
It falls to either the person who's on call or their supervisor. We don't respond to all of those calls. So a police officer may call and say that a woman in her 80s has passed away in bed overnight. Her primary care doctor has said that she's struggled with cancer or treatment, and that doctor's willing to sign a death certificate. In those circumstances, it's not suspicious, it's not a suicide or a fatal opiate overdose. We would not respond in that case. That would be one that we would decline. In other circumstances, we may get the call and then learn that the person's going to survive, and so we will not respond. We typically will mirror what are the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner. If they're involved, then we'll definitely be involved.
Now, referring to that point, as far as the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner is concerned, in any sort of death investigation that your unit is involved in, what, if any, involvement or communication do troopers from your unit or yourself have with the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner?
We have constant communication. The law that I cited also says that the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner has exclusive jurisdiction as well to determine the cause and manner of death. So we work closely hand in hand to figure out the circumstances that led to the death.
Now, as far as working close hand in hand with the medical examiner's office, what does that sort of typically entail?
Takes a turn of phone calls. We'll call in and speak to the intake person or the on-call doctor to tell them what we've learned or what we're observing. We forward reports in every case to the doctor so they understanding at least what we learned in the first 24 hours. Doctors will often reach back out to us asking for scene photographs, more reports, ask questions, and in instances where it's a suspicious death, we will send an investigator to the autopsy to stand with the doctor to make observations and answer any questions for the doctor.
Now, as far as the determinations that are ultimately come to by the medical examiner, Lieutenant, as far as any determinations that are made with reference to either cause or manner in any instance with the medical examiner, what, if any, role do you or anyone from your unit have with regard to that decision by the medical examiner?
We have little to no role outside of providing information.
And as far as the determination specifically, whether it's manner or cause, what, if any, impact does that have with regard to any death investigation that you're doing?
Well, the cause will give us a big incident. So we want to know if the person died of a heart attack or if they died of a gunshot wound. That's big when it comes to then making charging decisions about circumstances. So it's important to learn the cause, and to get the doctor's input on the manner is also helpful.
But as far as the manner, if the manner is found to be undetermined, would that impact what you've learned through the rest of the course of your investigation as far as charging goes?
No, that determination by the OCME is often in the early stages of investigation, and as we learn more information, the circumstances can change.
And the determination that is made by the medical examiner, that's strictly from a medical perspective, correct?
Correct.
Now, with regard to January 29th, 2022, in this call that is initially received, Trooper Proctor and Sergeant Mechanic then essentially respond to the Canton Police Department first, is that correct?
Yes.
And as far as your role as it pertains to this or any other investigation, how much involvement do you have, or how are you sort of apprised of what's going on?
Sergeant Mechanic, in this case and in typical cases, he's keeping me updated by telephone, so I can supervise from anywhere with my cell phone. He's giving me updates about what he's learning. We will discuss what the next steps should be. And that's what transpired over the morning of January 29th.
Now, over the course of the morning of January 29th, what, if any, conversations did you have with relation to Canton Police Department's involvement or ongoing or further involvement with regard to this investigation?
I had spoken with the acting chief at the time, the current chief, the chief at the time, Kenneth Berkowitz, about the involvement in the Canton Police Department. We talked about the homeowner at 34 Fairview and his relationship to his department. And because of the appearance of a conflict, we had made a decision that the Canton Police was going to take a step back from the investigation, and that the state police would do the investigation without them.
Now, as far as that appearance of a conflict or step back, as you termed it, what was your understanding at that time as far as what the role of the Canton Police would be?
Really to provide support. So anytime we're in a local community, we need the support of the local police. If we're going to start knocking on doors, we want to make sure they're aware or present. They have resources in town, whether it be lights or barriers that we may need to access. So I would define it as a support role.
Now, with respect to those conversations you mentioned that you had yourself and what the then current chief, Kenneth Berkowitz, who, if anyone else, was involved in those conversations?
The district attorney.
That would be Mr. Morrissey, is that correct?
Yes.
Is that abnormal for him to be involved in conversations in regard to a police department and any sort of appearance of conflict?
No, it's not abnormal for him to be involved.
And as far as his involvement in his conversations, as far as you're aware, did they evolve, or were they any greater or less than the conversations that you had with Chief Berkowitz?
No, they were the same conversations.
Let me ask you this, Lieutenant. At some point over the course of this case, or at some point over the course of this investigation, did you become aware of certain text messages on Trooper Proctor's personal phone?
Yes.
And upon your being made aware of those text communications, what, if anything, did you as a supervisor, what, if anything, did you do?
I had a long discussion with him about the content and nature of them. I expressed my displeasure as unprofessionalism and the content of them, and then I reported up my chain of command.
Oh, he reported it. Okay.
Was he admonished in any way?
He was by me at that conversation. Yes.
Now, sir, again, just sort of in general terms, you're familiar with this investigation as you're supervising the unit that was investigating it, correct?
Yes.
Now, is it typical practice in conducting homicide or death investigations, as far as civilian witnesses are concerned, to seize their personal cell phone?
It's not uncut. It happens. Yes.
And is that a practice that occurs with respect to every single witness in every single case?
No.
And so what are sort of the parameters, or what would be some of the reasons that certain civilian witnesses' cell phones would be seized versus others?
Well, you use the word seize. So when I think of the word seize, I'm thinking in the legal context, where I think there's probable cause to believe, more likely than not, there's evidence of the crime I'm investigating held within the data of that phone. Sometimes if we believe there's information on the phone, we may ask for consent for that one specific thing, or for that one specific reason. But outside of that, unless I have that belief there's data on a phone, I won't ask for consent or seize a phone and pursue a search warrant.
Now, are you aware of certain cell phones that were either seized or granted access via consent in relation to this investigation?
Yes.
And specifically, Mr. O'Keefe's phone was taken into custody, correct?
Yes.
And the defendant's phone was taken into custody on January 29th as well?
Yes.
Now, as far as civilians, there were two civilian witnesses whose phones were given via consent and then extracted, that being a Jennifer McCabe and a Kerry Roberts, correct?
Yes.
And so why was it that Ms. McCabe's phone and Ms. Roberts' phone was taken versus some other witnesses?
They had information relative to the actions of Ms. Reed and the communications with specifically those two individuals on the morning of the 29th. So we wanted to memorialize them and save them.
Now, sir, with respect to your involvement on January 29th, where and when did you sort of leave and become involved in the investigation beyond sort of a supervisor?
Shortly after noontime, we had learned more information that necessitated a broader search. So I had reached out to Lieutenant Kevin O'Hara with the State Police CERT team to assist with processing of a scene. And so since we were going to be processing a scene, it was prudent for me to leave my house, dig out, and drive to Canton.
Sir, with respect to, you mentioned dig out from your house. What were the conditions like around the time that you were leaving?
There was probably 8 to 10 inches at the house. So I had to dig out my driveway and the large snowbank at the end of the driveway that's caused by the plow in order to get a vehicle out and head to Canton.
And where is it first that you were heading to?
I first went to the Canton Police Department to talk to Chief Berkowitz and wait for the arrival of the CERT team, and then to 34 Fairview.
And as far as the CERT team was concerned, if you can, explain to the jury sort of the process from your perspective, from your end, as far as activating the CERT team, what it is that they do and why you had requested.
We work with Lieutenant O'Hara frequently. I called him on a cell phone, and the CERT team is out of a different chain of command. So the state police is a very paramilitary organization with specific chains of commands with different structures. So I reached out to him and asked for his assistance with this investigation. He had to get further approval up his chain of command, mostly for overtime and to pay the troopers to come out. That would be the way that I would make a formal request to the CERT team.
And so the initial phone call that you made to Lieutenant O'Hara, you don't have the power or the authority to sort of direct him to dispatch his team and go to 34 Fairview.
I'm muted. I'm sorry. I paused it for a second. Evilissa took the words out of my mouth. Tully, the only professional one. He seems so far. I don't know. I hope this guy got text messages too. He seems so far maybe like the only professional. Like, you know, but we'll see.
Correct.
And so as far as that initial phone call that you made to Lieutenant Hara, do you know about what time of the day that was?
It was about 2 p.m.
And what was the purpose of sort of that initial phone call that you made to Lieutenant Hara?
I'm going to ride you so hard now.
Because it needs to be a conversation up my chain of command. So above me, there's a detective captain and a major. My major needs to really talk to his major to make the formal request. But I wanted Lieutenant O'Hara to be aware of the request was coming so that he could at least start polling his people to see who was available to respond to Canton.
And with describe for the jury sort of what you observed as far as the weather conditions on that day.
I observed blizzard-like conditions. It was snowing heavily, windy, low visibility.
John, may I approach?
Yes.
Oh, it's so nasty outside. These dogs, they didn't even want to go pee. I was like, what do you do if you have dogs and it's like nasty weather? I walked them downstairs. I think they took like a mini pee, but I don't know, man. Dog is outside. It's like nasty. They took like one little mini pee, but like Fred doesn't like the rain at all. So he won't even get close. Ricky walked out there for a little bit. But
22 as well as February 2022, correct?
Yes.
And are you familiar with the Norwood Municipal Airport and where it is in relation to the town of Canton?
They don't use this though.
Where is it?
It's the next town over.
And as far as, are you familiar with a Neponset Street in Norwood?
I am.
And does Neponset Street also carry into the town of Canton as well?
Yes.
And with regard to 34 Fairview Road, about how far away is 34 Fairview from Neponset Street?
From Neponset Street, it's a mile, 2 miles.
Relatively same geographic area as far as the Norwood Municipal Airport and 34 Fairview Road.
Yeah, I would say as the crow flies from 34 Fairview to Norwood Municipal Airport, that's probably 3 miles.
Really?
Oh. And sir, with regard to the records before you, from your memory of those dates and those times in January and
okay, am I back? Can you hear me? Can you see me? Is the green screen gone? I paused it so you're not missing anything. If the green screen doesn't go away, I'll have to end this live stream and come back. I think you guys can see me. Does it look okay? I just want to check before we start again. And Facebook, Facebook ended. Damn it. But I think it started back over. Let's see, Facebook ended, but we're back live. Okay, Facebook, I'm sorry. We're looking good? Okay. I'm going to play it. If it keeps having issues, I'll end it and start a new live. All right?
Light, temperature-wise, as well as precipitation.
Yes.
I love that question.
Yes.
Governor, may I approach?
Yes.
Come off the seat to introduce in minutes.
Maybe it's the weather. Maybe it's like the crazy weather I've been having here too. Could be the weather. Thank you, Kim. Thank you, people. Everybody on Facebook. Kim, Michelle, Tanya, BK Boone, Michael. All right, appreciate you guys coming back. I've always had this weird glitch, but maybe too the weather is just like really, really bad. So I don't know if it's that too, Bear. How's Remy? Jenna said, "Damn it, Mel, stop touching buttons." This really is a crazy case. And I don't know, like while we're going through the motions, I also look forward to like things being over. Like when we get to the whole verdict. Somebody sent a tweet and they said they feel like a verdict will return in 15 minutes. And I'm just like, that's just not realistic. I don't see it coming back in 15 minutes. I think it's so divisive. I've seen cases that I interpreted as open and shut. Maybe some people, I don't think this is open and shut. Some people might interpret this as that. I've seen cases where you're like, there's no effing way the jury's going to take a long time, and they take a long time. I don't think this one's going to be a quick one. I don't think it's going to be. I don't think they're going to come back with a verdict in 1 hour. This one's going to take time, unless they're all in agreement, which doesn't happen all the time. I mean, the case that I did, it was like 2 days. The case that I was on as a juror, we actually gave up, and the judge was like, "Please
Lieutenant,
try again."
At some point, you respond to 34 Fairview Road. Is that correct?
Yes.
And do you recall about what time it was that you arrived there?
About 5:30 p.m.
And when you arrived there, who, if anyone else,
gone again?
from the state police preceded your arrival?
There was at least 2 members of the CERT team present, including Lieutenant O'Hara.
And if you recall, where were they located in relation to the residence?
They were directly in front of the residence.
Now, as far as...
All right. If you're watching me on Facebook, let me just delete and start a whole new stream. You got on YouTube, you guys lost me? You say you can't see me? It's good or not?
Their search was concerned.
I'm looking at myself. It looks good.
How was a determination made, or who, if anyone, made a determination as far as where they were going to search?
So typically when I work with Lieutenant O'Hara, I kind of give him direction. So in this case specifically, I learned from Sergeant Buchanan that Mr. O'Keefe was found in an area between the flagpole and the fire hydrant. So we concentrated that area, and so I talked to Lieutenant O'Hara that this is going to be our parameters, and he instructed his people how to deploy or to that area.
Now, sir, as far as beyond sort of directing, as far as an area is concerned, what, if any, other involvement
you might have to back out and come back, guys.
have when it comes to search team and how they conduct their search?
They're professionals with expertise in that.
Facebook,
so essentially, I just point them in the direction, and it's up to them to figure out how to deploy it and get the mission done.
And so what, if any, involvement do you have as far as when they begin and how many people are involved, or when they end, or anything like that?
I'll have some consultation with Lieutenant O'Hara, but it's really his call to make.
And as far as this particular search on January 29th, you know how many members of the CERT team eventually responded and how the search was conducted?
There were 7 members. Most, if not all, had typical snow shovels, and they used those shovels to systematically go through the snowbank that was in front of 34 Fairview within these 2 parameters.
And over the course of, now as far as where they were searching, can you describe sort of the road conditions as far as snow removal had concerned, or where the precipitation amounts were concentrated with respect to the road?
So the road was only plowed really right down the middle. Barely 2 vehicles could get by at a time. The snowbanks on either side of the road were protruding into the road. So that was kind of the snow setup. Our cruisers were just kind of buried in snowbanks a little bit down the road as we excavated this.
And, sir, as far as this search was concerned, what, if any, information did you provide to Lieutenant O'Hara as far as items being searched for, or what was he directed to be looking for?
There were 2 items specifically. We were looking for potential pieces of a taillight of a vehicle and a shoe.
And as far as a shoe and potential pieces of a taillight, where did that information come from, or why were those the items that were being looked for?
Relative to the shoe, when Sergeant Buchanan and Trooper Proctor responded to Good Samaritan Hospital and collected the clothing of Mr. O'Keefe, they realized that there was only 1 shoe present at the hospital. They had contacted the Canton EMS and other people who cared for him, and they'd learned that a shoe wasn't removed at the scene, and that when Canton Fire and EMS arrived, Mr. O'Keefe only had 1 shoe on. So it was important to locate that second shoe. Relative to the taillight, we'd gotten information that witnesses stated that Ms. Reed's vehicle had a broken taillight, and so we were looking for evidence of it being broken at that location.
And with respect to the search that was conducted by Lieutenant O'Hara and members from the CERT team, where was that in relation to either the roadway or the front lawn of 34 Fairview?
As we were excavating this, or as they were excavating this snowbank in front of it, we realized that the snowbank protruded about 3 feet into the roadway. So as they were moving this first part of the snowbank, we're essentially shoveling the road. And so as they continued on there, they would then hit the curb area.
And as far as beyond the curb area, as far as grass or the front lawn, was the CERT team members, from your observations, able to go beyond the curb into the front lawn area?
No, they're having difficulty shoveling with plastic snow shovels onto the lawn, from the lawn.
And Your Honor, may I approach the witness? Oh, actually, I'm sorry. Lieutenant Tully, with respect to the CERT team and their search, what, if anything, did you do to document and memorialize their efforts as far as any items that were recovered?
I took photographs of items that were eventually found in place and documented them in a report, and they were collected in evidence bags.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes.
May I have one moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
I don't know, Kim. I
Jurors
wonder
will
what
be
the
stopping at 4 today. Okay.
Yeah, that's what they stop at every day. I really wonder. I'm curious to see what the defense is going to have for Tully. So far, Tully doesn't seem to be a mess like Proctor. Proctor had a lot of all these text messages and stuff. So far, Tully, I don't know.
Sir, with respect to, I'm going to place before you, Rule 2, I'm direct your attention to what's been marked as 111 through 134, and just in general, I'm just going to ask you to recognize.
I do.
What do you recognize those to be?
The photographs that I took that afternoon.
May I approach this to retrieve, Your Honor?
Yes.
Your Honor, I don't want to belabor the point, but if I could just publish just a couple of these exhibits.
Okay.
Lieutenant. And Ms. Gilman, if I could have exhibit 111. Lieutenant, there should be a laser pointer on the desk before you. If I could ask, first of all, do you recognize what's up on the screen as exhibit 111?
Yes.
And what do you recognize that to be?
The front of 34 Fairview Road in Canton and the flagpole I previously mentioned.
And if you could, using the laser pointer, just direct your attention to what, if anything, significance you observe in this exhibit.
So this picture was taken to memorialize this piece of red plastic here.
Soviet Union? The fuck is that?
And Ms. Gilman, if I could have exhibit 114.
What is that shit?
Again, Lieutenant, do you recognize what's up on the screen as exhibit 114?
Yes.
And if you could, using the laser pointer, direct the jury's attention to what, if anything, of significance you observed there.
It's that same previously mentioned red plastic. The purposes of the multiple photographs, I'll take one as overalls, and as I get closer, I'll take more photographs to give better context.
And these photographs of these items, were they taken, the items that you're photographing, were they moved in any way prior to you memorializing them with photographs?
Yes, this piece in particular, a CERT team member, as he was removing the snow with the shovel, had picked up this piece of plastic with it. I asked him to place it back where he found it, where it approximately was, so that I could memorialize it in place.
So it was picked up and you asked him to put it back where he found it, and he did so?
Yes.
Ms. Gilman, if I could have exhibit 117. And again, Lieutenant, do you recognize what's up on the screen as exhibit 117?
Yes.
What do you recognize that?
Members of the CERT team doing their excavation of the snowbank.
And Ms. Gilman, if I could have exhibit 120. And again, sir, do you recognize what's up on the screen as exhibit 120?
Yes.
And if you could, using the laser pointer, direct the jury's attention to what, if anything, of significance you observed in this photo.
Oh, Lord.
A black Nike sneaker with a white sole that was recovered in the snowbank.
And at some point subsequent to this, what, if any, comparison did you do visually with the sneaker that you observed in this photograph with respect to the sneaker that was recovered from the Good Samaritan by Trooper Proctor and Sergeant Buchanan?
They matched both in make and model, size. The shoe that was recovered by the troopers at the hospital was a right sneaker. This one found was the left, or a left.
Ms. Gilman, if I could have photograph 127.
Crunchy, Alyssa.
And again, sir, do you recognize what's up there as 127?
Yes.
And if you could, using the laser pointer, direct the jury's attention to what, if anything, of significance you observe in that photograph.
A clear piece of plastic.
Now, with respect to this clear piece of plastic, what, if anything, did you observe or did you note of significance as far as the surface of that particular piece of clear plastic?
I noticed that it's curvature in shape, and there are raised dimples, for lack of a better term, that were along the outside of this piece of plastic, or on one side of it.
Now, Ms. Gilman, if I could have, lastly, from this group, Exhibit 131. And again, Lieutenant, do you recognize what's up on the screen as Exhibit 131?
Yes.
What do you recognize that?
That is a photograph that I took at 34 Fairview that depicts a red piece of plastic.
Ali is your tweet.
Ms. Gilman, you can take that down and start. We can have the lights back on. Now, with respect to the items that were observed and photographed by you on January 29th during the search team search, what happened with those items from the scene?
They were collected, placed in an evidence bag, and brought back to our offices to be secured.
And if you could, as far as the evidence sort of system is conducted with regard to this case and other cases and investigations within your unit, can you explain to the jury that process of sort of when an item is seen or an item of evidentiary value is seized, what happens?
First, to provide context, by policy, I am the evidence officer for the unit, and I have assistant evidence officers who assist me in the caretaking of the evidence. So we'll use this particular instance where evidence is collected at a scene, it's memorialized in place, placed in, if it's the right shape and the right condition, in a paper bag with some notes placed on the outside of the bag, transported to our office where it's secured either in a temporary locker or the permanent evidence area.
And as far as when it's taken into custody and put into a bag, what is sort of the protocol or the policies with regard to how that bag is marked or what is done with that bag once you have the item contained there?
There's certain piece of information that will typically go in the bag, the name of the person who is picking the evidence up, put in the bag, the date, time, location, a brief description of the evidence contained in the bag. It will then be taped, and initials will be placed on the tape to memorialize who did the taping and the date in which the taping occurred.
And as far as the supervisor, as far as evidence is concerned, you mentioned that there are some evidence officers who are assistants to you as the actual evidence officer.
Yes.
And at this time, in January 29th, 2022, who were those evidence officers within your unit?
Relative to the homicide section, it was Trooper Jeff Kotkowski and Trooper David DeChico.
Now, with respect to the evidence storage at your office, can you explain to the jury sort of how that's managed, where it is, and how items are checked in to evidence once they're seen?
We have an evidence tracking system. So as evidence comes in, we place it into the system. A label will be created and placed on the outside with the case number and an item number specific to that bag. It will be placed into the evidence room, which is locked in two different methods and has an alarm code pad, and you need your ID pass to swipe in order to enter. And only certain members of the unit have access and know the code to the alarm. Me obviously being the one, and the two assistant evidence officers. And that's subject to inspection by the state police frequently.
And so, correct me if I'm wrong, but at this time, it's essentially yourself, Trooper DeChico, and Trooper Kotkowski, who had access to that evidence storage area?
Yes.
Now, with respect to the remainder of the troopers within your unit, would they have access to that same evidence storage area?
No.
Now, with respect to your unit at this time, late January of 2022, how many troopers were in your unit or under your supervision in the second unit at that time?
There were 13 under my supervision for the unit as a whole. Specific to the homicide section, there were 4 troopers and 1 sergeant.
And that number, as far as 4 troopers and 1 sergeant, is that sort of a typical number, a low number, high number?
Historically for Norfolk, that was a low number. We have since had more transfers come into the unit.
And how many do you supervise within the homicide unit at this point?
1 sergeant and 7 troopers.
Now, with respect to the evidence storage area, is there sort of a temporary versus a permanent storage area contained within that locked and coded storage area?
Yes.
And can you describe sort of the difference between the two and how things are managed by either you or your assistants with regard to evidence within the locked storage area?
So because only essentially 3 people have access to the permanent storage area, if a member collects evidence and brings it back to the office and doesn't have access to the main storage area, we have another temporary storage area that is allowed by policy where they can then secure the evidence. In the next available time, the person who has access to the main room will come in and transport that piece of evidence from the temporary area to the permanent area.
As far as that transportation or transmission from the temporary area to the permanent area, what, if any, sort of documentation is generated in regard to into that?
There's no notation from one location to the other as allowed by policy.
And as far as when items are seized and when their labels are sort of printed in relation to those items, is that always done sort of simultaneously when the item comes in, or how is that typically done timely?
Well, same with the label printing system. So only the evidence officers have the ability to create the labels and put it into the system. So you need them to create the label. So if a member comes in, doesn't have access to that system, place it in temporary storage area at the next available opportunity for an evidence officer or the assistant evidence officer to arrive, know that there's evidence there and process it, place a label on it, and stick it in the permanent storage area.
Now, with respect to those items that you recovered from 34 Fairview Road at the roadway in front of it, where were those items located with respect to each other?
They were, in total, within a 5-foot area. So if you're looking at the house, from right to left was how they were found. First was that first picture you displayed, which was the red piece of plastic. About 3 feet from that was the Nike sneaker. About 1 or 2 feet to the left of that was the clear plastic, and just next to that was another piece of red plastic along the curb of the road.
And as far as those items that were recovered and bagged and placed in evidence on January 29th, did you have occasion to bring those items with you to court today?
Yes.
And Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
Sir, I am presenting you a bag.
Brought my own.
Lieutenant, first, just with reference to the item I placed before you, do you recognize that?
Yes.
And what do you recognize that to be?
The bag that contains the left sneaker that was seized from 34 Fairview Road that day, outside the residence.
And Your Honor, with the court's permission, may the witness remove that item from the bag and display it for the jury.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. If you could place that in the back. Your Honor, the Commonwealth is seeking to introduce and admit as the next exhibit.
It says Gangster Cheese by Colby Jack. Boar's Head 3 peppers.
Exhibit 569.
May I approach again, Your Honor?
Yes.
Sorry, I'm handing you two separate bags. Do those without finish. Do you recognize each of those respective bags, sir?
Yes.
What do you recognize those to be?
The bags that contain the red and clear plastic pieces that were recovered from the roadway in front of 34 Fairview Road.
And sir, if you could, just with respect to each of those bags, read what is listed as a description on the outside of the bag to the jury.
The description on this first one is pieces of clear hard plastic tail light cover. Location 34 Fairview Road, Canton.
And the second, please.
The description is pieces of red hard plastic tail light cover. Location 34 Fairview Road, Canton.
And Your Honor, with the court's permission, I would ask that the witness be allowed to open each of those bags and display the items to the jury.
Okay.
And sir, if I could ask you to start with the red plastic.
Okay.
Shit is bomb. You ever had this? So good. Tully. So Michael Proctor took the stand, and he's supposedly like the mastermind behind the conspiracy that held everything together to frame Karen Reed. He's covering for the murderers. They said he was going to take the stand at first. Then they said he was going to plead the fifth the whole time. And then I guess they found these nasty text messages. So that's about it. Where's the framing, the conspiracy? They proved nothing besides he sent nasty messages about a woman he thought killed a fellow police officer.
On the Commonwealth is seeking to introduce and admit those as the next exhibit.
All right, Mr. Jackson, they're coming in.
No objection. Thank you.
570.
Lieutenant, before we get to the next item before you, if I could just ask a couple questions in regard to the search. January 29, 2022, about what time is it that you arrive in the area of 34 Fairview?
About 5:30.
And had yourself or any members of your unit, to your knowledge, been at 34 Fairview at any point in time prior to your arrival there that day?
No.
Objection.
Well, I'll allow it as to whether he knows whether they were or not. No.
And about how long was it that you were on scene at 34 Fairview that day?
About an hour.
Now, with respect to when these items were found, you know approximately what
Amanda, you disagree
time
about the cheese?
the first item was located by a member of the CERT team?
Yes.
And what time was that?
5:45.
Now, with respect to at any point in time that you were on scene at 34 Fairview Road on January 29th, 2022, was either Trooper Proctor or Sergeant Mechanic on scene at 34 Fairview while you were there?
No.
And with respect to around that time, as a supervisor, were you aware of where they were or their location at that time?
Yes.
And where was that?
They were following a tow truck that was towing Miss Reed's vehicle from Dayton to Canton.
Now, with respect to the vehicle and or the pieces of red and clear plastic that were found by the CERT team at 34 Fairview Road on January 29th, what, if any, conversations did you have with respect to Lieutenant O'Hara in regard to the vehicle and sort of the damage on it?
Objection.
I'll allow that.
We wanted to know what we were looking for. Specifically, Lieutenant O'Hara wanted to know what are we looking for and what's the scope of the items we're looking for. So we had discussion about how much taillight we believed was missing from Miss Reed's vehicle, so that as we go along, we would know if we had it enough, or we had it all, I should say.
And so with respect to that, what, if anything, were you able to share with Lieutenant O'Hara with respect to Ms. Reed's vehicle at that particular time?
I didn't have much information because it was still on a tow truck or being loaded up into the Canton Police Department at that time, so I didn't have any actual knowledge of how much taillight we're looking for.
And prior to you leaving from the scene of 34 Fairview Road, along with the CERT team on that date of January 29th, even at that time, did you know the full extent or how much taillight you were looking for at that time?
No.
Now, sir, if I could ask you just to, with the court's permission, Your Honor, may he remove the items from that second bag before him? Lieutenant, from the two items that you have before you in your hand, you had referenced one of those clear pieces having some sort of stippling or raised surfaces on it. Is that correct?
Yes.
And if you could just with your finger or just in some way delineate to the jury where you observe that to be.
So you can see it as you look through it. You can see almost bubbling of it. And as you run your finger along, you can feel indentations along there, as well as the ridges that are along the top end here that appear on both pieces.
And Lieutenant, if you could, you can place those items back in the back. And Your Honor, Commonwealth will seek to introduce and admit as the next exhibit. No objection.
This is 571. You?
Your Honor, given the time and given where I am.
Why don't you come to set? I will say this.
Lord Almighty. The cheese is pretty good. Hoax was saying that, like, for some people, my daughter likes spicy a lot. I love spicy. Maybe that's why I go to the bathroom so much. I don't know. Maybe that is why. This thing is 3 pepper. I don't know what kind of peppers it tastes so good. You put this, I love pepper jack. That's one of my favorite cheeses. It has a little spice. I think it's like jalapeno inside. But then I recently discovered this 3 pepper jack, bold Colby Jack cheese. That shit is good. I don't know. And actually, yeah, you're right. Who said that? Amanda. Yeah, it's 4:00, so I guess they're over for the day. Let me see. Cheek said, how long did the state take? How long did it take the state to step in once the local contacts were made?
I'm going to, rather than while we keep talking, I'm going to go ahead and send you home.
Yeah, it's ready at the end of the day.
Discuss this case with anyone. Don't do any independent research or investigation into the case. If you happen to see, hear, read anything about the case, please let us know. We'll see you tomorrow. So tomorrow will be 9 to 4, 9 to 4:30. And we hope to get started right away, okay? Detective Lieutenant, I'm just going to actually file out after the jury.
Yes, sir.
Sir is leaving your notebooks on your chin. All rise, jury out. Jurors follow me, please. Those things all come. You may be seated.
Let's see.
Some connection to. Well, so he does a bunch of other items. The only connection is that he also does a testimony.
I guess that's it for today. We'll be back tomorrow. What an interesting day. Oh, no. Oh. You're not supposed to let me forget. We got to rewind back. I just want to see Proctor snap. Proctor was a little upset. He was upset. He finally got to talk, and he was snapping, and they had to cut his ass off. We're going to get back to Proctor, too, before we get out of here. Cheek says, at our big age, we can't use... Yeah, that's true. I've switched to oat milk, almond milk. I haven't tried that yet. I've heard of it. I heard almond or oat. One of them I heard tastes really good. I don't know.
Thank you, Tully. Juice.
Yes.
Well, let me set up the stream for tomorrow. It should be interesting. I wonder what the defense is going to do tomorrow with Tully. Tully, to me, seems like he doesn't have baggage. A majority of the witnesses seem to have some type of baggage. I'm like, God, they have all kinds of shit. So far, Tully doesn't seem to be carrying a bunch of stuff. Almost like Kerry Roberts. So we'll see. Is the defense going to cross-examine him? What are they going to say? They have to cross-examine him. What are they going to do tomorrow? Let me see what tomorrow's. Oh, and we're going to rewind too. Don't let me forget. We're going to rewind. Okay. We're going to rewind and check out Proctor snapping. He finally got to say something after all these hours. He snapped. Let me see. Can we go back? Where's it at? You're pissed. Proctor. Proctor.
Thank you. You may be seated. Close back session.
Witness 2, please.
Jurors, I am striking that
Viper,
last
what's up? How you
answer.
doing?
It was probably a partial answer
Thank you for
cut
being a member.
off. I'm striking it completely, disregarded. If you took notes, cross the notes out. You're not to consider it in any way. It is completely stricken from the record. And Trooper, I'd suggest you listen to the question being asked of you before.
Oh, so it was before. Okay, it was before this. Hold on. I want to hear Proctor snap. Carrying like a really smug look on her face, like you're being accused of murder. I don't know. Sure, here, smile.
An open court and spouted lie.
Here we go. See Proctor snap.
You see the text from Courtney Proctor. I did not give my name as I didn't want anyone to link me.
So that's stricken. That's what was objected to. Just this one, or the whole page goes in.
You responded to a text message from your sister, correct? And your response was, hopefully, she kills herself.
Yeah.
Correct?
Oh,
Yes.
Who's she?
The defendant.
Miss Reed?
Correct.
You literally said that you hope that Karen Reed, the subject of your investigation, the woman sitting to my left, about 7 feet from me, that she would just die. Correct?
It's a figure of speech.
You wanted her to, the figure of speech is you wanted her to kill herself.
Oh,
No,
God.
no, it's not.
Trooper Proctor, Karen Reed, in your investigation, had quickly become a very serious problem for you, hadn't she?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you believe that Karen Reed was a problem or an issue for your investigation?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
No, absolutely not.
In your words, quote, all the powers that be want answers ASAP. That's what you texted on January 29th, right?
Yes.
That put a lot of pressure on you, didn't it, Trooper Proctor?
There's a lot of pressure in every case, sir.
This case involves a Boston cop whose family you were actually connected to, correct?
Loosely.
Chris Albert, loosely.
Yes.
Julie Albert, loosely.
Yes.
Colin Albert, loosely.
Yes.
Kevin Albert, loosely.
Yes.
Loose enough to leave his badge and his gun in your cruiser after a night of drinking, right?
Objection.
Sustained.
Oh, sorry, guys. I got
You agreed in your group chat.
For some reason, YouTube like filtered your messages. Hold on, I'm going right back now and hitting show. I don't know why are they doing that? I don't know. Okay, so I hit show. All right. Cheek said Karen may just have a resting bitch face. I have it too. Somebody actually tweeted that earlier. I saw that tweet before.
That you needed to, quote, make this cut and dry because another cop was involved. Those are your words, right?
Objection.
Where is this?
Wait,
Miss Reed caused you to turn.
No, this is
of the times that you found.
No, it has to, he snapped when the prosecution got back to him. When the
That's stricken. That's what was objected to. Just this one. Or
your investigation.
There we go. It's when Lally took the stand. Like Lally got with the redirect.
Good afternoon, sir.
Here we go. Here we go. Here we go.
Now, when you had started with cross-examination the other day, you were asked some questions about whether or not in August of 2022 you disliked or did not like Mr. Yannetti, correct?
That's correct.
Why was that?
Well, basically, he stood up in open court and spouted lie after lie about me, called me corrupt and conflicted, dragged my name through the mud after I spent 10 plus years without a single complaint filed against me, and he had no basis or no facts for these.
So all of a sudden, the conspiracy people making all these reports and shit.
After I spent 10 plus.
Look, and she's smiling too. She's so animated. I don't know if that's good or bad for her. The jury's watching it. She's so like
years without a single complaint filed against me, and he had no basis or no facts for these wild accusations, because there are none. This investigation was done with the utmost integrity, not just by me, but my supervisors and other troopers in my office, as well as Mr. Yannetti shows up at my sister's school yesterday in the parking lot where he's not welcomed, or where people are not supposed to be, with one of their witnesses and their private investigator. And a teacher sees this, it informs Mr. Yannetti that he can't be there, and instead of saying okay and leaving, he asks, is Courtney Proctor in the building? Does she work here? She calls me to see if she was being served.
Objection. Can we approach?
Yes.
That's when he snapped. A couple of times I saw her making a lot of facial gestures, and that I don't know if necessarily that's good for her. Maybe not. I feel like even people that feel she had nothing to do with it feel like she's coming off as a little bit smug with these.
You disliked or did not like
facial remarks.
Mr. Yannetti, correct?
That's correct.
Why was that?
Well, basically, he stood up in open court and spouted lie after lie about me, called me corrupt and conflicted, dragged my name through the mud after I spent 10 plus years.
She looks very vindictive. So Michelle says, see what Michelle said, screw him, nasty man. And then Cheek says, "Oh well, MF didn't call her a cunt, and wanted to act like a pussy in a stand by and spell it BS. Own up to your shit."
Years without a
Chef Lady says, "I'm glad I don't have Twitter." Yeah, if you don't have Twitter, don't get Twitter. Do yourself the don't go there. Stay away.
Single complaint filed against me, and he had no basis or no facts for these wild accusations because there are none. This investigation was done with the utmost integrity, not just by me, but my supervisors and other troopers in my office, as well as Miss Dianetti shows up at my sister's school yesterday in the parking lot where he's not welcomed or where people are not supposed to be, with one of their witnesses and their private investigator. And a teacher sees this, tells Miss Dianetti that he can't be there, and instead of saying okay and leaving, he asks, "Is Corny Proctor in the building? Does she work here?" She calls me to see if she was being served.
Objection. Can we approach?
Yes.
Okay, so that was his moment, because I feel like Jen McCabe had her moment too, where she like snapped, and there was there was a paramedic too that kind of like snapped, and like she had that moment where she kind of, I guess she cried. I don't know. She had her moment too where she kind of snapped. So I don't know. Yeah, neighborhood, it's true. Twitter is toxic as fuck. It really is. That's why I'm there. My relationships. Bro, she had the accusations, son, as you chose to be an unprofessional looking for nudes. So the thing with that, Cheeks, I agree, that's weird and unprofessional. He said it was a joke. I don't know if you believe the guy or not. He said that, like, he was in a group message and like replying to people, and he's like, "Oh, I didn't find the news yet," like as a joke. Was he really looking for her news? I don't know, because he said it's weird because in one sentence he's like, she says she's hot, I think, or no, the other guy asked if she's hot and he was like, yeah, or something, or she's a babe or something like that. But then at the same time he's also talking shit about her, like with the bag. That whole thing too about like talking about her, if she really has a bag or not, or if she has like this whatever. I don't know. That's just not. It's not even in me, because like somebody said the other day, like you never know when you'll find yourself in a health medical situation. It's weird that they were like talking about that. People actually do talk like that. One of the things I mentioned on Twitter is that a lot of these people that I've seen on there on Twitter, they're hypocrites. These people, especially some of these YouTubers, half of these people are criminals. All right? Half of these fucking YouTubers are criminals, and they want to come and try to talk about, oh, this is wrong and this is right. Half of these motherfuckers are criminals, got all kinds of weird domestic violence charges or charges against kids, and then they want to come on here and tell you like what's right and wrong. But not only that, some of these people do worse. Some of these people dox people and harass people and reach out to families and all kinds of shit. I'm just seeing. I'm not saying everyone. I'm just saying that some of these people that are leading the charge, and some of these people that have been talking, they do worse. And they want to come out and try to be like, oh my God, that's so disgusting. There's literal videos of you saying the same shit. And then people are like, oh, but they're cops. And so they're held to a different standard. Cops are people, are regular people. How can you, how can you call somebody out for the very same shit that you do, but be like, oh, well, they're a cop? Oh, I don't want to play that. I just gotta say, some of these people are hypocritical as fuck. Some of these people are fucking criminals with a criminal list. Like, I mean, this page is long. When I talk about what's right and wrong, fuck out of here. Fuck out of here. Oh, how could you? No! Ah! Serious. I'm shocked sometimes to see some of these people talking. Like, bro, like, you see your shit? Like, like what? No, Hoax. You told me you've been arrested. You're a cool criminal. I'm just sometimes surprised to see how hypocritical these people are. Like, as if they're any better, and you're not. Anyway, I guess that's my rant for today. And they've been trying so long to find something. I've never been arrested. They've been trying forever. I mean, thank God I haven't. I mean, shit, you never know. Shit could change. Maybe one day I get arrested. I don't know. But they've been trying so hard. It's criminal as fucks when I want to talk about what's right and wrong. Get out of here. Shut up. And yo, Wendy, we need a chase so bad. What's happened to all the chases? There's no Court and Sims, right? It's Fox Outrage. What happened to all the chase? There's no chases going on. There's no standoffs going on. Oh well, there was something last night, but I only got a text message. I didn't get a call. There was a barricade last night. I would have covered that. Google says there should be a presser soon. For what? Presser for what? Oh, something happened today. Numerous agencies are on a scene to a mass casualty incident where multiple people have been shot in Illinois. I said noise. Illinois, I guess. Currently, numerous law enforcement and emergency personnel are on the scene. Mass casualty incident inside a gated community. What the heck? All right. I thought I was going to get off and relax. Let me check out the scanner audio. Top feeds. Or Illinois. There is something going on in Illinois, I guess. Let's see.
V8.0, QIV 11.8. Sir. All right, DC1 number 78508 for the L43412, exit 4061, MA Carroll, releasing authority on all tracks QIV 8.0 to QIV 11.8. Is that correct, over? That is correct. Does the engineer concur? Yes, sir. DC1 number 78508, release to 1619 WRB.
It's like, this was an hour ago.
Junction's line lock normal, and you guys are headed east on the main, correct, over? That is correct.
Down here at Lost Lake, this is a private community. This is the home of the Lost Nation Golf Course down here just outside of Dixon, where where law enforcement is responding to what we're told is a critical situation where there's apparently either a shooting or some sort of violence may have taken place here, and multiple victims is what we're hearing. That's all we know. However, law enforcement is promising to speak to media here momentarily. Residents are being allowed in this gated community, although folks coming here to golf are being turned away. If they're not a resident of this community, they are being asked to leave. This is being secured by law enforcement. Several, it looks to be like the Ogle County Sheriff is here, the Illinois State Police is here, several sheriff's departments, it looks like, are responding to this, what we are called, or being told is a critical situation just down here outside of Dixon. We're going to be going live here all afternoon when we can give updates. Several, I believe, at least 2 or 3 officers said they are going to be speaking to the press here again. We just don't know when that is. An officer who was ready to speak to us had to go inside and respond to a situation. Again, this is a critical situation. We're told this could be a shooting, some sort of violence, and it could involve multiple victims.
All right, so we'll come back. I'll wait to see if anything else develops with this. It does seem like there was a mass shooting incident or casualty. But yeah, I'll come back if anything. I'm gonna take a little break. Thank you guys so much for being with me. I appreciate it. Even I know a lot of people disagree, so I appreciate you still watching me. I know you could just go somewhere else. All right, so I'll redirect for tomorrow's stream. I think I set it up, and I'm just gonna chill. The rain, the weather. Thank you so much for everybody, the members. You guys are keeping me alive, because if it wasn't for the memberships, I'd probably have to not cover this trial. To be honest with you, I'd have to not cover the trial, but because of the memberships, I can do it. So thank you so much. Take care. Peace. Bloop, 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 bloop. Bloop, 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 bloop. Bloop, bloop, bloop. Amanda, I love you too, Amanda. Amanda!